knowing now, like families I helped 3 years ago, like they have like maybe $250,000 worth of equity. That's the biggest paycheck that they probably can get.
Investment side, you don't get the emotions. That sometimes is very good. But then in the other side, you see the money too, but you also get the emotions and use your talents to help families. So I was literally negotiating something. Mr. Terrel Killings, brother.
Yes, sir.
It's a pleasure have you here. I just want to get into it, man. Like, there's so much that I want you to share in your story. Successful real estate agent, successful real estate investor, have flipped, wholesale, over 100 properties. Number one agent in one of your previous brokerages. Real estate investor, like I said, but real estate coach. I know that you mentor other agents in the industry. Father, previous college athlete. There's just so much, man. And I'm like, when I met you, like, man, you have a very nice resume, which is cool. And in everything side up, it makes sense. So I wanted to start from the beginning, where all this drive, discipline comes from.
Man, first and foremost, it's a pleasure to be on, brother, man. I know this is going to be an amazing platform, so I'm super excited to be one of the first ones on, man. But, you know, when you talk about, like, you know, where did that come from? I think that more so came from just my family and my family's background, you know. Come from humble beginnings, both my mom and dad, born and raised in Liberty City. And one thing that my parents did, they were both hardworking teachers. They were both in the public school system. So they not only gave to me, but they gave to a lot of kids.
That's awesome. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of kids looked at my parents as like their parents, right? You know, especially when they didn't have maybe a father or a mother in the home. So I watched my family, more so in regards to my parents, be givers.
Yeah.
And so you asked me about, like, you know, where did that come from when it comes to, you know, you wanting to coach and train and help others and uplift them. That more so comes from, I've watched my parents, you know, essentially put on, you know, people over time. My dad was one of the most successful athletic directors in South Florida. Yeah. You know, he hired some of the most winningest coaches in South Florida's history. I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah. So, you know, you asked about the football background. I kind of was pretty much bred into it, you know, to be honest with you, man. You know, I grew up around the athletic program. My brother played sports as well. He was, you know, pretty good. Until this day? Yeah, so he played ball all the way up to college, had some knee injuries, and then, you know, that kind of essentially derailed his career, but he was really, really good. Yeah. Standout athlete, scholar athlete as well. You know, my parents, you know, really, really instilled education in us and wanted to further our education, so they really were hard on us when it came to, you know, our grades and our standards. And you know, like with that, me and my brother always have finished at the top of our classes, you know, by being pushed by our parents. So you asked me, like, where all of this comes from. It's from my family, you know, in humble beginnings, and, you know, wanting to be that source that can kind of change the trajectory of my family too. So
do you know if their parents, your parents' parents, come from education too? Like the education background? No. So they were the first on their
my parents were both first generation, you know, college attendees. They actually met in college sweethearts. And, you know, they both coincidentally only lived about 3 minutes away from each other growing up, and they never knew each other. Yeah. So
what would you say about education in general? And I mentioned that, like, it's interesting. Both of your parents, school teachers. Yeah, you got an education. I got an education too. I know a lot of people that don't, you know, formal education, let's call it that way. Nowadays, I can understand why people are hesitant against formal education. 100% understand. At the same time, you need education. What would you say in general in that aspect? Do you think that just by going life and life experiences and just reading books should be enough, or people should pursue an education?
Well, that's tough, and I would say that, and this is somebody who, has his master's, has, accomplished a higher level education. It's tough to say that because, like you said, like things are so different right now, especially like, when you have to pay for college. I was, fortunate enough to be on a football scholarship for my undergrad, at least, where I didn't have to incur so much student loan debt. And I think that education, of course, is essential if it's like, at an affordable price. So it's kind of...
That makes total sense.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why I keep hearing people, the ones that are against it. Me and my siblings, it was, at least in our household, my dad, he has like literally 3 masters. He's big into educate yourself and stuff. And when I came to the entrepreneurship world, like you have a lot of these guys saying like, you don't need a formal education. So I know that a lot has to do with that, with the fact of getting into debt. And I truly kind of like agree with it, at least how the society has built it in that aspect. You shouldn't get into debt to get an education.
Correct.
And if you, maybe specific careers, we know that they're more some careers more expensive than others, and those are necessary. But education, any type of education is necessary. I truly believe that some people need formal education, a classroom, a teacher,
structure,
to instructions, to get to learn. Some people don't.
People need structure. Like a lot of people need structure. And kind of to, piggyback on what you were saying. I do think that education is essential. However, there has been people that have went to college and majored in something. They are not doing anything in that field right now. So like, for me, it's about like more so creating the transparency in that conversation, is letting people know, like, you may take a chance and, spend an X amount of dollars in a field that you think is going to automatically grant you a job coming out. It's not like that. And I think once people start seeing the reality of that, I think like once you start like chasing your passion, though, like, of course you need to always be someone that always goes after information more than anything else. Outside of education, more so like be a sponge for information.
Regardless of the environment, regardless
of the environment.
That what you just said is so powerful. And I've heard it recently. We should all have like a curious mind. Always be curious to learn something. There's just so much to learn. It's just information is infinite. You know what I mean?
100%. And like, I think that's what separates people in whatever field that they're in, is like their want to continue to learn, and their attitude towards not being comfortable and feeling like they've arrived, right? Like even like us, like we're always still trying to get more information, no matter how successful we are.
I recently also heard like if you study something for 100 hours, you're gonna master it more than 90% of the people in that industry. 100%. Just 100 hours. Like
for me, I'm all about 10,000 hours. To master your craft, man.
You would think that it would take longer than that.
Man, and some people get lucky, but for me, it's like you're going to get to your end goal if you spend the most amount of time in whatever you're doing and putting your foot forth in it. And I think like the universe also innately rewards you too. Like if it knows like you're truly passionate and trying to go towards a goal that you may have. I think that the universe just rewards you over time.
100%. And like I like to simplify concepts because it makes it easier. When I hear the word, for example, like 100 hours or something make you master in that industry. I've also heard like if you read 48 books on a specific subject, it's the equivalent of getting master. So that's how like you can either get a formal master in education, in school, in college, or you can read 48 books. But you know, for somebody that likes to read, might get to 48 books in a year, in 2 years, and you get like a master on that specific topic. But most people, that's another true stat, most people read only one book after college in their entire life.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean?
That is crazy.
And I can understand the majority of people don't have that feeling towards books and reading, but like one book, one book in your entire life, and it's necessary. Now, you took a similar path like a lot of people, and like myself. You got a formal education, and then you started working for corporate. Where do you start? How long you were there, and what changed?
Man, okay, so went to Howard University undergrad in Washington, D.C., came back home, started pursuing my master's at FIU, got that, and at that time I was in marketing and sales, and I initially worked for a mobile marketing company where one of our clients was like a huge cigar company, and we would essentially go to marketing events and do marketing activation and giving out samples and trying to get people to try the product. Then I transitioned over to Coca-Cola, where I spent several years as a sales supervisor.
One of the biggest, if not the biggest, corporate company in the world. How was that experience?
Man, it was okay. It was I got mixed emotions about it, I'll be honest with you. So the people that I met there were amazing. Really? I think that when I was there initially, it was an amazing culture, and then what happened was they had something that was called route to market, and it essentially changed the entire structure of the company, right? So they started doing like a immense amount of micromanagement, and for me, like I've always been.
What year are we talking?
We're talking probably 2016 to 19, about 3 years or so.
And did anything happen in the world that made the company make those decisions at that point, or it was just?
Well, I think they were going through a transition of leadership. I think a new CEO had, came on board.
Usually, like there's one move that makes the whole company change the culture, like you said. So you get into this company. I mean, the biggest, if I'm ever going back to corporate world, you want to have that in your resume. Yeah,
I mean, it's an amazing brand name. However, what I started realizing is because I always was a top performer in the company, right? When it came to sales, my area, as opposed to people's other, they have routes. So like you have a specific route of clients in a specific area that you would service. And all of my areas always had year-over-year growth. And in that, I always would be like at the top of the state standings when it comes to anybody routes in the entire state, because we distribute throughout the state of Florida. But then I also found that like there was a cap on commission, and so like no matter how hard I worked, no matter how successful I was in my role, I was only going to make X amount of dollars, at the end of the year. And after starting to feel that way, I started to get a bit discouraged as well. And then that in combination with like around the same time my dad, he started getting really sick, and I wanted like freedom, flexibility to go help him out. And in some instances there was conflict, with a supervisor where they would take issue with me trying to maybe go take my dad to a doctor's appointment. And it just kind of. And
you were in sales, which usually we have, because I used to work in sales in corporate. You still have flexible schedules as long as you have hit metrics and stuff. Like, and still.
No, like I said, like when they changed it, they were literally. It went from a very flexible job,
micromanagement,
into a very high level micromanagement, in the sense of like for instance, they started tracking your location everywhere you went. Clock in. They'll watch where you're driving to, clock into each location. So no matter if you hit your metrics or not, they wanted you there. Who
knows if the company changed now? Because that's what I noticed, that corporate has to change that type of work environments nowadays to be able to retain employees.
Yeah.
That's why you have companies like Google's and you know, Facebook, that people like look forward to work there because it's unlimited vacation and this and that. And when you talk to the people that work there, like they work their tails, you know.
Well, you know,
like,
the food and beverage industry is very different though. You know, like you know, those companies that you named are, you know, mostly tech, you know, and like food and beverage, it has a demand in it where, like, for instance, you can't even vacation like during Christmas or Thanksgiving. Those are the busiest holidays, which is the most requests for, you know, beverages throughout the year. So they need you, they need all hands on deck.
Makes sense.
So being like at a job like that, you know, sometimes I used to be like, man, I can't take Thanksgiving off. Like, nah, I'm not feeling that. You know, like.
So I got to see now, first of all, where you got the curiosity for information, for knowledge, your parents, both of them, which is very cool, you know. I got to see where the discipline comes from. I imagine was the fact that you got to be an athlete, right? You built, you know, resistance, discipline, and then that combination is what drive you into being an entrepreneur and get into the world of real estate. My first question is, why real estate? And how do you get to real estate after coming from corporate?
That's a good question, man. I think, oddly enough, I think like real estate was in front of me my entire life. And not to say like I was watching somebody who was doing real estate in a high level. What I always noticed about my family and our lineage is like my grandfather in Liberty City, Florida. He built his house from the ground up.
Really?
With his own two hands. He wasn't a contractor. He wasn't anything like that.
Are you
he
serious?
worked at the airlines. And you know, crazy enough, a large amount of the materials that he got was from properties that were in construction, that were being built where I-95 currently sits. So if you look back in the history books, they took a large portion of Liberty City as well as Overtown and tore down a lot of properties to develop I-95 all the way through. And when that happened, some homes that were in progress of being built, they had to essentially just stop. Like it was, and the city made them stop. Like there was no level of fighting that. You know, they essentially used eminent domain to take over all of these residents in South Florida's homes and told them, hey, you have this is X amount of dollars for whatever we assess your home to be.
Yeah, whatever they want to pay you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, whatever the city wanted to pay you. So my grandfather at that time had took advantage of that opportunity and, you know, used some of those materials like, hey, pay people at a discounted price, built this home from the ground up. I still own that property to this day. But like just having those stories that were told to me like growing up. And then like my dad, even to this day, always is constantly working on his house, doing like a new project. So like, house started out as a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. Our family started growing. I got a brother and a sister, so we needed an extra room.
So he built the house by pieces. They've been like
so we bought it brand new. He had bought it brand new, and then over time he built an addition to add an additional room, an additional living room.
As the family was growing,
exactly.
And the more they needed space.
And so like I often now think about like, you know, like, well, how did I arrive in real estate? And you know, I say, well, you know, it was really in front of me the whole time. I watch people like devote and pour whatever resources that they had. It may have been, you know, minimal to some, but you know, whatever resources that my family had, I always noticed that they would pour into their home.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Literally yesterday we had an experience on the plane coming back where the flight attendant, I was sitting down next to Aaron, in the front seat, and one of the flight attendants, we started talking to, Aaron started talking with him, and you know, the three of us, we were having a conversation. We were talking, very sharp guy. I'm actually gonna have coffee with him next week. Like, and he was sharing a lot of information. He was saying how he comes from, he's Dominican, his background, and an athlete. He used to play baseball and almost got to the major league. But as something happened that his scout ended up robbing that opportunity from him.
Wow.
Yeah. But he said that he at this point he's starting to be a pilot. I think missing just a few minor stuff to be a pilot, to raise capital, to start something, right? And the more we were asking him, we find out that one of the reasons why he wants that is the biggest dream is his mom, to build a house for his mom. And one of the reasons why he feels like that, and he's like, you could see in his demeanor as soon as he started talking about his mom, that he feels indebted because, and that happens to a lot of Dominican players. That's why we have so many in the major league. It's the only way out. And it's the only way to be able to build something for their family, and especially to build a house for their family. Like literally, that's the dream.
Biggest dream.
You know, because owning a house here in the U.S. is part of the American dream. Building a house, but we're talking about like a very small house, is the dream of a family when it comes to that level. So I know exactly, and I can relate to everything that he's talking about, but it resonated with what you just said, that you grew up seeing that, you know, and how literally you always had the curiosity of real estate. How real estate, we see it right now as, especially us that were in the investment side, as numbers, right? And it's lucrative. There's a lot of money. But every piece of real estate is attached to an emotion. You know what I mean? From the person that built that piece of real estate to each one of the persons that came after it and live in that piece of real estate.
1000%.
And what I got to notice, and it's crazy that you mentioned that, every successful agent, yes, they're doing it for their family, a bigger impact, some for the money, and that's okay. But as far as the passion behind of what they do of helping families, that we use that as part of the promotion and marketing, the helping family is that sense of ownership. Either buying it and acquiring it or building it, like in your case. So that's powerful. So would you say then the fact that you grew up seeing how that house was built that you still own, which is pretty cool, right? Was what got you, I guess, made you interest in real estate?
Like, you know, and that's why, you know, I try to be as cognizant as possible as what I'm doing in front of my son, no matter how young he is right now, because you never know who's watching. And I say that not even just about real estate, but, you know, my family lived in a, pretty impoverished area in Liberty City, and, you know, you get privy, or you see a lot of stuff that sometimes at a certain age you may not need to see yet. And also, like, I had uncles that may have fought drug addiction, or it may have been in the streets and kept getting arrested, and those were showing me the things that I did not want to do too. So, like, you learn, as a kid, I think, innately, and you don't even know it. And then I think, like, adults don't even know, like, what they're displaying to you with their everyday life habits 100%. And what they do. And, that was just, them working on their homes and pouring into their properties over time was just something that I always knew. Like, and I thought that was just the thing to do, the right thing to do. And then you talked about, like, families and the families that you impact over time. Like, and I think that's been one of the most rewarding things for me is, and, that's why I still sell retail real estate, not because I have to, because I could just strictly invest. But, like, I also have an opportunity to, help put families in position long term, with the understanding that, over time, property has continuously appreciated, right? And, knowing now, like families I helped 3 years ago, like they have like maybe $250,000 worth of equity. That's the biggest paycheck that they probably can get
100%.
or ever ran across in their life in one setting.
Wow.
You
It's
know?
like as you saying all of that, a lot of stuff are coming to my mind, especially something that happened today. I'm going through, that's the beauty, to your point. We're both working both sides of the industry. The investment side, that is purely numbers, reason, facts, and then you have the traditional real estate buyers and sellers. Correct. Where there's emotion to both. I keep, I do both. You do both. There's beauty in both. Like the investment side, you don't get the emotions. That sometimes is very good. But then in the other side, you see the money too, but you also get the emotions and use your talents to help families. You know what I mean? So I was literally negotiating something for a family where I think probably, I've been in that similar positions before, but for the first time where every single dollar that they get for that property counts. And it's a beautiful story behind it. I'm not gonna get into all the details, but for the first time in hundreds of transactions that I've been involved, it's like, I'm in a position where I've been in this position before, but my talents are being used to help somebody not being taken advantage. Because that's what's happening. 100%. One thing is negotiating, one thing is when somebody wants to take advantage, and that's what I'm feeling. And then it's like, I see the family, I know their story. Like, they're no longer clients, they're literally friends. And the fact that, I'm getting to use my talents to protect that equity that you mentioned, that is powerful. So I know exactly what you mean. 100%. So you then, I now know where the drive came from, or the interest on real estate. How then did you start into real estate?
Like I said, I was at Coca-Cola. I was doing well, productivity-wise, but I was feeling like I was in a position of being stuck. And I knew I wanted something different. And, over time, there were, certain instances, like I said, where I couldn't be as flexible as possible for my family. I knew that's ultimately what I wanted to have.
Flexibility, time freedom.
1,000% was to have the flexibility, so I can, like, whenever I want, I can shut off and just go.
Which resonate more than anything, because you could have saved money freedom, which I'm sure that was one of the purpose too. But in your case, time freedom, at least in that moment, probably was even more important for your experience. Not being able to, like, man, my dad needs me, and I know that I can help him, but some asshole, is not allowing me to. You know what I mean? It resonates.
Yeah, man. I got to a point where I mentally was checked out, right, of the position, and I felt like I was just showing up. And, like I said before, I owned my grandfather's house. I inherited my grandfather's house, and I knew I had equity in that home. And I said, you know what, I want to take an opportunity to essentially acquire more property with leveraging that home that I had. So I did a cash out refinance, utilizing the prior income from being at Coca-Cola before I left the job.
I'm sure that all of that ideas, you apply because of your education. You know what I mean?
Nugget, guys, don't quit your job. Buy a house first. Right? Buy your house first, then quit your job.
But the idea of what to do and stuff and think outside of the box, you need knowledge for that. You need a basis for that. Somebody else that is, doesn't have an education, doesn't see it like that, would just sell the property, get the money, and just leave out of the proceeds.
I mean, that was like out of the question, man. Like, to be honest with you, and honestly, like, I didn't know what I was doing fully. I just knew what my intentions were. So just to be fully transparent, after I took out that cash out refinance, I went and invested in Houston, Texas, and I looked at the property prices and I thought it was an amazing deal.
Yeah.
Not with understanding of, knowing how to pull comparables and understanding like what's in
You just were
proximity.
looking at the cheapest
I was
piece
looking
of
at
property
these
that
sheets, I
you
say,
can buy.
This is a hit. This is a hit. And, just opposed to like
Yeah.
what our prices were at the time. It was
Yes,
like, it seemed
yes.
amazing. So did that. And then in
But Texas? Do you even have family in Texas?
My brother went. Brother went to college in Houston, so
Okay.
I always was somewhat familiar when I used to go out
Okay.
there. So, and then I had a very close college teammate who was from Houston, right? And so like he kind of was trying to help with his best to help me facilitate the transaction and keep up with the contractors, but just. Honestly, like it was a culmination of not knowing what I was doing, how to fully vet a property and assess a property initially,
But still
starting
doing
out,
it.
but still doing it, just thirsty for an opportunity.
Yes, yes.
And that I took a substantial loss from that property, lost almost six figures on that property, just in combination with more so mainly the contractor was supposed to do permitted work. We built out an additional room on the home. He was supposed to permit all that stuff out.
You were building stuff.
Yeah, starting out. So,
wow.
He didn't permit the stuff, so I had to essentially tear everything out and redo everything all over again.
The city came.
Yeah, city got involved. They red tagged me, so then I had to like get from top to bottom, roof permit,
So
AC,
from
electrical,
wanting
plumbing.
to invest in real estate, your intention was to flip the property, or
It was to flip it.
From wanting to flip the property, you became like a contractor.
Yeah.
'Cause it's like now you gotta. The only way to get rid of it, if you want to get rid of it, is to fix it and make it
put
right.
it together. So just imagine, like I'm in South Florida, I'm flying over to Houston probably every 10 to 15
How old were you?
days. I was 2019. I was what 20, probably like 29.
29.
Yeah, 29. And. Flying to Houston 10 to 15 days, every 10 to 15 days, going on Home Depot runs, like trying to do everything myself because I didn't have the resources in place to, essentially get the job, done. So, very expensive lesson, but also it taught me everything I needed not to do. So,
I was gonna go there.
Yeah.
That was your first piece of real estate. The intention was to flip. You probably saw, who knows, television, this and that. Like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
That's
looks
what I
good.
want to do.
Right?
That's what I thought.
And it was like complete mess.
Yeah.
Lost a lot of money. Why the heck did you do it again? Because you just said something powerful. They also show you what what did the stuff that I did wrong.
I may be a little insane because what do they say? Like, what's the definition of insanity?
Yeah, doing the
something
same
over
thing
and over
or-
again, expecting a different result.
But the second time, don't tell me that you did it.
Nah, man. The second time it was amazing, man. So like, it took me a while to recoup. So that's kind of was my path to retail real estate. Was okay. I had quit my job. I had lost tremendously, and so now I'm back to square one.
Yeah.
And I know I gotta still pay the bills on the refinance that I did. I can't lose my grandfather's house.
Yeah.
And so like
That's true.
that led me to say, well, okay, what else can I do? I still need that flexibility because my dad's situation, his health situation. So I turned to retail real estate. And, what I did was...
You didn't go back to corporate.
No, I didn't.
That would have been the easiest.
I don't think that I had an opportunity to. I
Really?
think that the way that my life was kind of set up, that I didn't have an opportunity to go back. My dad really, really needed my assistance. So...
You got to, what you mean is like time-wise.
Yeah.
Your dad was demanding so much of your time that
At the time, yeah.
you couldn't even look for one.
100%. So I just knew me going to look for a job, getting a 9-to-5 shift, starting out, how could I go to a job and they understand already my situation?
Yes.
You can't start out
You don't
like
go
that.
to an interview and says, I understand what
You
you
get
mean.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I was pretty much in a space where I felt a little bit boxed in. Where I got to make something work. So I just took a stab at, real estate. Like, and I'm talking about, I used to go around and just record apartments, condos, just hoping that somebody would. And, like I talked about earlier, the universe will reward you when you putting your foot forth in the right manner, right? So like literally a month in, I had a elementary school classmate reach out to me, and he had an expired listing. He said, man, listen, I had my house, a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom in Miramar. I'll never forget. And he reached out to me. He was like, man, I had a agent, prior, man, I see you've been posting on social media that you're doing real estate now, man. I know you knew, but like if you could stop by my house. So I did a listing appointment. He took a chance on me, him and his wife. And that was my first listing, but then that also turned into them buying another property too.
Wow.
So like within the first month or two.
The expire came to you. Usually that's not how it works.
Right.
He came to you and he translated multiple business.
Exactly. So I got, buyer and the listing side, because I was able to find them a home of transition after they sold as well.
Yeah.
And then those people have bought and sold me probably 4 times by now over time. And, that just kind of, and what I was doing was just getting all of the content, continuously getting all of the content over time, and then just keep continuously pushing it out. And then people just started reaching out to me, you know.
So you started building your residential side real estate business out of the sphere of influence.
Correct.
That's a tremendous lesson right there. And I'm coaching agents, and that's what I tell them, like that's the easiest source when you're starting. And usually that's the one that people are the most afraid to tackle.
Yeah.
It's like, give me a list of people to call. Let me do open houses. It's like, well, do you call your friends and family? Do they know the real estate?
I often find that a lot of new agents starting out, they have hesitancy in doing that because they're afraid of what the people that they know will think.
What they think. Yeah.
And what they have perceived of them over time.
100%.
So
it's a perception thing. It's crazy how, well, it was probably the example.
Yeah.
You said a friend from elementary. He reached out to you. You didn't reach out to him.
Correct.
You know what I mean? I know that you were using social media, and it came to you because you put an output, and it was an effort that went out. But did you ever reach out to that person directly?
No.
Probably not.
No.
And I did the same thing. Like we always push away the people when those should be the first ones.
The closest people to you.
Because they want to help. The true friends and family, they want to help you. You know what I mean? Look how he came to you after a bad experience because he's an expired.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he knew that you were newer, but it's like he trusts you.
Yeah, and then after that, like after I started learning those things, it took me a few months to get comfortable in reaching out to people, people that I know. But then after a while, I stopped caring. You know, I think once you let go of that, that's over your head, and you caring about what people may think, or you may think that they have a perception of you because of some, how you were in your past or something like that. Like you'll be surprised how many people want to see your growth.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was about to tell you something like that. Sometimes we isolate ourselves because of a trust situation, right? Some people in the outside may see it as an ego situation, that you do it because Terrell, he thinks that he's the big shit right now, and that's the perception from the outside. But in reality is that, and I know exactly what you mean because I have those feelings too, especially when you come from a country that unfortunately, big part of the culture is wanting, the first thought is what can I get from him?
Correct.
And then you start building that perception that everybody thinks the same way. And that's what you just said, that you'll be surprised the amount of people that will want to see you succeed. That's changing the narrative, you know? And if you don't feel like that, like if you still analyze it, take the time, and still don't feel like that with your circle, bro, it's time to change that circle.
100%. And it's crazy because like you said something about trust, right? I think that people will tell themselves in their mind that the people around them, their sphere, their network, that they don't trust them because they're new to something, when truly the person doesn't trust themselves.
Yeah.
If you think about it, like getting into something new, you don't trust that you have the skills, knowledge to really help this person, and you're afraid what they may think 100%. If you fail.
And so the overall thinking here is that it's just everything is perception. That's why, you know, the famous saying of perception is reality. If you perceive something to be real, then it's gonna be real. It's gonna be real for you. It's gonna be real for that person. Like, it's gonna be real because it's what you are telling yourself all the time. So that's super powerful. Super powerful. That was your first real residential real estate experience. I imagine after that you have another one. You learn with each one of the properties that you flip, wholesale, and help other people's buy and sell, because that's, you know, the nature of the business. We're always learning something new in this industry. Now, what as far as like that business, what do you get it to that point? Partners, friends involved. Who do you help? Who do you impact in the real estate world?
I mean,
and the reason I ask, for example, like you got to be number one in your brokerage out of hundreds of agents. How do you get there from starting to, you know, from failing flipping one property and helping a friend, you know, from an expired listing to be number one? How do you evolve? And the reason I ask is because a lot of people are curious, like, what's in between. And I'm starting to share more about what happened in between, because it's easier for people, the people that were with me at the beginning, all their colleagues and stuff.
They seen it.
You know, they saw me at the beginning. And they see me now. And they don't know what was in between. So if you have to summarize, say, what was in between?
Man, a lot of sleepless nights.
Really?
Yeah, I would say that, man.
No different than now, but now it's a baby.
No different than now, right? But like a lot of sleepless nights, and for a few reasons, right? Because like I told you about, like initially I took a huge financial loss, so I always felt like something was like on my back. Even when I was starting to recuperate over time, like, and starting to get funds from selling retail real estate, and I always just had that thought of that loss in my mind, and it just continuously fueled me. And so, like, you say something,
it's kind of like you want to make up for it.
Exactly, but there's no way to.
Yeah, there's
it happened.
No way.
It's already over.
I could see that.
So I was like chasing a ghost. For years and years, and like I just like. You know how, you know, they have a saying where you run so hard you hit your head on the goalpost. You know, that's what I did. You know, I just worked and real estate.
That was the fuel. Big part. That was the loss. And that fuel. I'm curious. Was it because the actual number that actually hit you? Like, how was I so dumb to lose all this money? Was it perception, like what people thought? A few people maybe that find out, because you probably didn't share that story to a lot of people. What was it?
So, boom. So a lot of people did not know about that, because in most instances, nobody really shares their failures. I wear it proudly now because I'm on the other side of that now. But like starting out fresh, you know, it created a lot of doubt. You know, you looked at yourself and, like you say, you're like, man, how did I get myself in this situation? But more so, I was chasing or running away from the feeling that I was experiencing in that time. Like, I knew that I never wanted to experience that emotion again. Feeling like I was like financially drowning and there was nothing that I could do about it. And, you know, just having that stress of that, like, you know, being spread thin, going back and forth, and like still like feeling stuck. I didn't want that anymore. And
so what I'm hearing from you is that each one of those things was more fuel. That's where the word they used to describe it. Because why do you get into real estate? Because of the time freedom. Financial freedom, yes, but the time freedom, because your dad needed you. You know, your family needed you. That was fuel.
Yeah.
And you said, like, at that point, I told you, you probably had the opportunity to go back to corporate, what you knew. And he's like, no, I don't think I had that opportunity. And I'm like, why? No, because my family physically needed me. So that was fuel. And then your first real estate experience, a total fail. Instead of pushing you a little bit more up, push you down. And that was fuel. For the next one, that first one was fuel because it was like, I don't want to do that again. So it's an interesting concept because it's like those failures, instead of like trying to push that away, it's like literally fuels you to the next one. And
Yeah, man. And I don't know what people who may be watching believe. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power. Whatever you may believe, I know, in my opinion, there's a higher power, right? And I think, when you want something so bad, God will test you to see if you truly want it. And I think, taking a loss first was the ultimate test. Like, do you truly want to be in this business? Do you truly know what comes along with this business, the stress that comes along with this business? And I think that situation built me for it. So like in any transaction, because we were talking before this started about like, how over time, you learn, as you go, because every transaction is different. And, you run through some stressful periods where you question like, what's going on in this transaction. But I think like when I went through that initially, that built me for that. So like, I've been stressed out, on transactions, but at the same time, I've always kept the level head and knowing that, it'll get completed, to see it through. And I've never had a transaction not make it to the closing table outside of somebody maybe have canceled at the inspection period or something like that. But
so would you say that after that transaction, obviously there you don't have to tell me, there was a lot more learning experiences. That I know for 100%. It wasn't that after that experience everything else came. There was more stuff. If it weren't because of contractor, it was underwriting the wrong deal. All of that, that's what gets you where you are right now. But as far as like money losses and the emotional side of it, do you have something else after that, business wise?
Yeah, man.
So would you say that your worst nightmare actually happened again at some point?
No. Honestly, I've never lost again.
No, you never lost again.
I've never lost again, man. Like I really truly mean that loss taught me everything that I needed to know. And thankfully, because some people continuously lose over time, but I've been awarded opportunity to not experience that, but also like when that happened to me, I became insanely fixated with making sure that didn't happen again too. Like I became fixated on learning the entire process and what to do to be a successful real estate entrepreneur. So. And then like everything just started to flourish after that, like just by being consistent.
So, because it was bad, you got into, adding stuff to a property, which a lot of investors, and that, get away from. So I think that also the fact that you experience, the worst of the worst, it's like it's better to have to deal with it at the beginning. Now, there has to be the drive in you to wanting to continue. Because most people, and probably even including me, if I were in your shoes, your first flip and if that mess is like, fuck that, I'll do something else, switch it to residential, whatever, but not that anymore. My first experience, it takes a lot, but the fact that it was the first one, it's kind of like, it cannot get worse than this. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I know that it could, but overall, like, being in the industry, it's, and for somebody that understands it, and the real estate side, like, that's the worst dream.
It could demoralize you, man. But like, honestly, like I said before, like I'm very big on family. And my mom and dad always raised me, my brother, and my sister with a motto like "Killings don't quit." So, you know, I just have that in me.
They literally told you that?
Yeah, like I remember being a little boy and
the power of affirmations.
Yeah, I remember being a little boy and just wanting to quit my basketball team because I was starting, and then like I came to practice late. Me and my coach got into it, and he said, "Oh, you're not starting." I said, "Well, I'm quitting." I thought I was quitting. So I get home, I tell my parents, I say, "Hey man, I quit."
Yeah.
You know, he like, "Why?" I'm like, I tell him why. He like, "No, you're not. You're gonna go sit on the bench.
Wow.
You were wrong. You're gonna go sit on the bench." And then eventually I worked myself
you
back into the
gotta
line.
repeat that to your kid.
Yeah.
You have a boy. You know 100%, what I mean?
100%.
That's how you get back and being able to tell the story. It's powerful. It's an affirmation. It's like, and put it in like Killings don't quit.
Yeah.
You're putting my last name. I'm gonna kill him. That's my last name.
Yeah.
That's putting more like intention behind it, emotions behind
100%, man.
So that's beautiful. It says a lot of the character of your parents.
Yeah.
Which I get to meet them at some point.
Yes, sir.
Family. You have a brother, and a sister, and your parents, and a wife. By the way, amazing wife. I got to meet her.
Thank you.
And it says about your character. How do you guys meet? And how was that process of you guys meeting?
Me and my wife.
Yeah.
So we both went to Howard University. And so I would see her every now and then.
Yeah.
And we didn't date in college. So after college, you know, start, you know, settling down myself, getting, you know, not partying as much.
Yeah.
And, you know, I reached out to her, and I ended up going to Charlotte because she was living in Charlotte. Went to Charlotte. We hung out, went on a few dates, and then we would communicate back and forth, long distance. And, you know, it just...
so you guys been together for how long?
We've been going on since 2014. So we're going...
10 years
in
next year?
On 9 right now in December. Yeah.
Wow.
Going on 9,
Crazy, man.
Damn, time flies. But yeah, we did a long distance thing, and then she started law school. She ended up coming down here for law school, graduated, became an attorney. And you know, we just been building our life together ever since. And you know, she's been, you know, intricate part in, you know, keeping me motivated. Like you talk about those times, like she was the only one that saw.
Yeah.
Like when I had
she
nothing.
went through it.
Yeah, when I lost everything financially, and she saw the stress on me, how heavy it was on me, how I didn't sleep, how I tossed that night.
Yes.
And she was that, you know, kind of beacon of light that kept me like motivated. Like, no, you'll get out of this. I know it's a tough
and that's exactly why I wanted to, you know, talk about it, because you have your parents. Obviously, they are a big influence in your life, right? Killings don't quit.
Yeah.
You know, that's powerful. And you get to a point where you're the one taking care of them in all aspects, you know. They take care of you, you take care of them, and then those were the influence in that moment at the beginning of your life. Having an influence in the second part of your life, it comes with that partner, with the right partner, which in this case is your wife. And I got to confirm the day that I met her, you know, that we hang out just for a little bit. I got to confirm so much, and I was telling to my wife that too. Now it makes sense. It clicks, man. It clicks why this guy is so powerful. I mean, the decisions that he made, it's because of that. Like, I do believe that having the right partner can guide you in the right direction and see stuff that we don't see, bro. It's like we can be in the front, you know, in the fronts of our business, and they could be in the house. They're not experienced what we're experienced. They're not talking to the people that we're talking. They're not in the rooms that we're doing. Just with the amount of information that we come to the house and we lay down on them, they're able to tell us which direction, which rooms we should be leaning towards, people we should be meeting, and which rooms we should be leaving.
I think women have a great sense of intuition, right?
Yep.
And Aaron said something that was amazing. When we sat down for dinner, me, him, his wife, and my wife, Carla, and my wife, and he said, women are multipliers. And, thinking about, how my life has gone as far as the success in my business, it's been because my wife will tell me that person is draining you. Because she knows I'm a giver.
Yes.
Giving fills me up.
Based on what you express yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So sometimes people identify that and may try to take advantage.
Yep.
And I don't see it. Yep. And I think like as a partner, they're watching you. I'm sure your wife has seen you sometimes stressed out in the house about X, Y, and Z, and she said that's not serving you.
Yes, exactly.
And after you receive that and you say, okay, because sometimes we don't see it.
We don't see it. Sometimes we hear it clearer. We don't even pay attention. I've noticed that. I've learned the hard way to pay attention. And it's we have this masculine side of like, I know what I'm doing. I'm the one, like I said, in the fronts, meeting with people or doing this and that. Like, and sometimes it takes, because I've happened that so many times. My wife gets so frustrated when she tells me something and then I come back, I was thinking this, or this person told me that. It's like, bro,
I
already told it to you, but okay,
Yeah.
So it takes also discernment.
Yeah.
To start noticing that, paying attention. It has been a journey for me, still a work in progress. It also takes the right men, you know what I mean? Because not all men are capable of that. That's when ego kicks in, and the differences start coming out. So that is powerful. I mean, it's so nice once you find that person, and that helps you build. Not physically, because they don't need to be physically doing it, but that is so crucial, and that's awesome. Just the way that you talk about her when she's not in the room says it all.
Yeah, man, she's awesome, man. Like I said before, and it's just not even on the professional side. I'm talking about more so as a person, and on the personal side, and wanting to always see me be better. Like, she always spoke that on my life. Like, whatever I was currently doing in the past, she would be like, that's not for you. That's not, this is your season to stop, or this is your season to say no. And I needed that. You talk about discernment, that's what they are there for, and they kind of help you identify certain things that, like you said, you wouldn't see for yourself, man. So, she's definitely been a blessing.
That's awesome. What is next for the Killings?
What is next for the Killings? So currently, man, we are working on expanding our business. We are moving into the Carolinas as well, servicing that we've done the business in South Florida. So we're moving, expanding on our acquisitions and the retail side out that way. Just continuously trying to get better, refine ourselves as a team, and just help as many people as possible. Like I said before, I think that's what fills me up. That's what kind of keeps me going, because I've been blessed with the opportunity to not have to sell retail real estate, or I can sell retail and not have to do the investment thing. I've been allotted opportunities, and I think that's very rare, because sometimes a lot of people may be boxed into one thing, and then they may be subject to certain market conditions, and that's something that I've learned from you, honestly, watching you.
Like you just said, you don't put yourself only one box. There's so many ways to do business. That is one thing that because we're similar age, similar path in some stuff, but on the decision making process, on the fact of not being afraid, obviously now hearing even more and getting to know a little bit more, it makes total sense on why it's easier for you now.
Yeah.
But it's so important to not think one-sided. You know, there's so many ways that you can make money in just one industry.
Yeah.
People want to like do real estate and then start like a product and sell this
Correct.
and that. It's like in getting multiple just in real estate alone. There is so much opportunity on market, off market, coaching, investing, so much that you can do. And the fact that you were able to be able to grow and take advantage and identify those opportunities, that's powerful.
Yeah, and then also like, you know, I think for us, like we are learning from one another too. And I think like a lot of the conversations that me and you kind of have, a lot of people aren't experiencing, so it's kind of hard to have that conversation, especially at our age. In most instances, like we're the youngest people in the rooms that we're in. We're normally the youngest people walking in.
I like that feeling, you know. I like that feeling. I know that it's not gonna be forever. Like that people say, like, because here they like we're gonna be, but it feels good, right? Don't you feel good when people point it out, like when they ask your age and you tell them, and it's like, wow, you know, it feels good and there has been people in my life and probably in yours that have said it, like, you're so way ahead than me when I had your age.
It's crazy, so but I don't see it like that though.
I don't see it like that either. Me too. But it makes sense. It's like, that's why you're gonna be farthest than what I'm at right. And it's like, bro, are you telling me I wanna be there and I'm gonna be, you know what I mean?
How do you feel? Let me ask you that. Like, how do you feel when you hear that, when you receive that? Because me personally, I kind of like shy away from that.
And at the beginning, I was like that, shy away, meaning that kind of like I don't believe it. I have a hard time believing it because the person that is telling me that right now, it's way ahead than me. But I'm using that metric. That person is using a different metric.
Correct. They're
comparing their journey at my age. So if I switch it and I try to see how they're seeing it, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the people that we talk to, they say, you know, like they didn't hit their stride until their mid to late 30s, and they're just figuring out early 40s. And, you know, it's honestly motivating when you walk into those rooms and people say that, and you be like, okay, well, that means I just got to stay consistent in whatever I'm doing and continuously putting my foot forth. So, like, you know, that's why I wanted to ask you that, because, like, we kind of share that commonality. Is like we're both young, we both walk into some high-producing rooms of, you know, people that, you know, we're in proximity of, and they kind of really give us that feedback all the time. It's like...
It takes, I also believe that it takes multiple times, especially for us, that I noticed that we're similar in that aspect with the trust part, trusting people. I've got to realize that a lot of my isolation and keeping a small circle, even though I know a lot of people, keeping a small circle, it comes from trust. It takes multiple people to tell you for you to start to believe in it. Because when people say it to you, you're like, okay, perfect. I appreciate that you wish that for me. You know, but okay, that's what it is. But then, like, when you start like multiple people, it's like our brains can process like, okay, it's not only that they wish that for us. It's becoming a trend, and trends statistically, you know, has a compound effect. And you know what I mean? It's like, okay, now it makes sense. So that's why it's important to be in rooms in proximity that think like that. Not only one person, but multiples. Yeah,
and then people see stuff for you that you don't even see for yourself sometimes, 100%. Man. And you know, I think like part of that comes from, I think both of us, like, our families were like blue collar, hard working parents. You know, not super rich. You know, we had to work for whatever that we had, right? And I think like the humility in us, it kind of like makes us sometimes say, I don't know about that.
I don't know about that. Yeah,
I want that, but I don't know about that.
It is true. I recently heard a quote that it was so powerful. That is, humility is not thinking less. Is not thinking less about yourself, but thinking about yourself less.
Yep.
The tendency is that it's like, put me down and try to like, you know, so people can relate to us.
Yeah.
That's the default. But it's not about that. You're a powerhouse. You are where you are because of you and the fuels and your experiences and what you went through. We gotta embrace that.
Yeah.
It's not showcase it and advertise it and show it to people. It's more, but also like embrace it. It's my reality.
Yeah.
And my experiences are my reality, period.
100%.
And everybody has a different story, man. So I'm looking forward, bro, to
Yes,
keep
sir.
growing with you. Like every conversation with you, I get something new. Now
Same
I
here,
feel
man.
that I got to meet more of you and understand where all of that come from. Where and why I've noticed that people, you have the tendency of people gravitating to you. I'm noticing that from the outside, at least lately. I don't know if it's been like that always, but it's because they see that. What you just said, they see stuff more than you see it for yourself, which is powerful. And you're welcoming that. That is also something that it helps.
Yeah.
So grateful for the time, brother, and looking forward
you,
to
man.
keep growing, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, brother.
Always, man.
Yes, man.
Always.